Hi everyone, I'm glad to be back again to add one more thing to our race writing strategy. Remember, we restate the question, answer the question, cite text evidence, and explain. And now we are going to add one more letter on to make races with an S at the end. So this video is going to teach you about the S on races. After we write the R, A, C, and E parts, then we have this last part, the S, which will just add one more sentence at the end as a closing. It needs to focus on the main idea of the question and answer. It needs to review the most important points in your answer. Now, anytime you tell the main idea or most important point of something, that might be called a summary. You've probably heard that word before, summary. Like after you read a book, I might say, tell me a short summary of it, the most important parts. Or I might say, sum it up, tell me the most important point. Now in this case, when you are writing an answer, using the races strategy, in the last closing sentence, you will tell the most important point of the question and answer. This will remind the reader what was most important about what you wrote and give it closure so that it feels finished. Now, it shouldn't just exactly repeat a sentence that has already been written. It will be a similar idea to what has already been written, but not exactly repeated. Take a look over here at these ideas I just explained about the S part. That last sentence. And now I have a question for you, and I want you to just whisper your answer. What do you think the S stands for? The S stands for sum it up. And here's our poster. The picture on the poster shows the type of flag that is waved when the winning race car driver has crossed the finish line. So we cross the finish line and are done writing our response when we add that final sentence that sums it up. And remember, we are winners of races when we follow all the steps. And notice that the S poster is purple, so that is the color we will use to underline the S part of our writing. Remember the story we have read called Tag at the Park? Let's reread the sample answer for this story that already has the R, A, C, and E parts, and then we'll decide on the best closing sentence for that S part. The question says, what lesson can we learn from this story? A lesson we can learn from this story is to be a problem solver. In the text, Kate came up with a good idea to solve a problem. She asked the other kids if she and her friends could join their game of tag since they wanted to play too. It worked. I know that it is good to solve problems because it helps people to not just get stuck, but to work things out. Now to figure out a good sum it up sentence, let's ask ourselves, what is the question about? Let's see. The question says, what lesson can we learn from this story? And what is the answer about? It is all about Kate being a problem solver. So the last sentence should say something about that. So now let's take a look at these two sentence choices and decide which one best sums up the whole question and answer. Choice A says, Kate really loves to play tag with her friends. And choice B says, being a problem solver is the way to go. Which is better? Whisper A or B. Letter B sums it up best since it is about the main idea of problem solving. Letter A is not a good sum it up sentence because even though Kate did like to play tag, that is not what the answer is focused on. Let's look at two more choices and see which best sums it up. And here's a little hint. We want to sum it up without exactly repeating what was already written. Choice A says, a lesson we can learn from this story is to be a problem solver. Choice B says, learning to be a problem solver like Kate is a good lesson for everyone. Which is better? Whisper A or B. Letter B sums it up best without repeating. Letter A does sum it up nicely since it says a lesson we can learn from the story is to be a problem solver, but it is an exact copy of the first sentence already written, so B is better. Now I want you to think of even another possible way to write the sum it up sentence, and you will probably want to use the words problem solving or problem solver in your sentence. Okay, whisper your idea. How about being a problem solver like Kate is a great trait to have, or something like that. It is short, simple, and sums up the whole thing. And notice we underline it in purple like the poster. Let's try another one. Remember the story called No Sunburn about the elephants? Let's reread the sample answer and then we'll decide on the best closing sentence. The question says, how are elephants clever animals? Elephants are clever animals because they know how to avoid getting a sunburn. The author says that elephants throw mud and sand on themselves to block the sun from their skin. They also stand over their young to make shade for them. This shows elephants are clever because they have good ideas to do something that is not easy, just like people do. Now, to figure out a good sum it up sentence, let's ask ourselves, what is the question about? Let's see, the question is about elephants being clever. And what is the answer about? It's about elephants being clever by avoiding sunburn. So the last sentence should say something about these ideas. And now let's look at these two sentence choices and decide which one best sums it up. Choice A says, being clever pays off for elephants. And choice B says, elephants and their babies are so cute together. Which is better? Whisper A or B. Letter A sums it up best since it is about the main idea of the question and answer. Letter B might be true, they are cute, but it's not what the focus of the question or answer was. Let's look at two more choices now and see which best sums it up. Choice A says, making shade for their babies is really clever. Choice B says, clever animals like elephants are truly amazing. Which is better? Whisper A or B. Letter B sums it up best. It tells the main idea of the question and answer. While letter A is true, it is clever that they make shade for their babies. That just focuses on one detail, making shade. And making shade is not what the whole main idea is about. The main idea is all about elephants being clever. Now I want you to think of even another response that could possibly sum it up. And you'll probably want to use the words elephant and clever in your sentence. Okay, whisper your idea. Let's see. You could have said something like, I'm glad elephants are clever so they don't get sunburned, or something like that. Again, this sentence can be short, simple, reviews the main point, and we underline it in purple like the S poster. Now I want to show you a few ideas you can use as sentence starters for the sum it up sentence. You don't have to use a sentence starter, but here are a few options: in summary, all in all, and to sum up. So we could have said, to sum up, being clever pays off for elephants. Or, all in all, I'm glad elephants are clever so they don't get sunburned. Let's try one more together. This is a story called Recess, which is one of the stories that you've already read that was assigned to you for practice. We won't reread the story, but if you remember, it is about a boy named Dan playing soccer at recess, and he notices a boy standing by himself watching the game. So Dan asks him if he wants to play too, and he does. Let's take a look at this sample answer with the R, A, C, and E parts, and then we'll decide on the best closing. The question says, what is a word you would use to describe Dan? A word I would use to describe Dan is caring. The text says that when he saw a boy standing by himself at recess, he asked the boy if he wanted to join the soccer game. This means that he was thinking about someone else's feelings, which is very caring of him. The boy looked lonely, and Dan cared about that. Now, to figure out a good sum it up sentence, let's ask ourselves, what is the question about? Let's see. The question says, what is a word you would use to describe Dan? So whatever word was chosen should be the main focus. And what is the answer about? It was all about Dan being caring. So that last sentence should say something about that. If we had chosen a different word like kind or thoughtful, then we would focus on that word. But this answer focuses on the word caring. And now let's look at these two sentence choices and decide which one best sums it up. Choice A says, in summary, being caring for others is a great trait to have. Choice B says, in summary, including others is a great trait to have. These are similar, but which one do you think is even better? Whisper A or B. Letter A sums it up better since the whole thing is about Dan being caring. In letter B, it is true that he did include someone, but that is just an example of being caring. The whole main idea is about his character trait, caring. And did you notice that we used one of our optional sentence starters, in summary? Let's look at two more choices and see which best sums it up. Choice A says, Dan proves that soccer is a great recess choice. And choice B says, everyone should care about others like Dan did. Which is better, whisper A or B? Letter B sums it up better since it is about Dan being caring. In letter A, even though soccer is a fine recess choice, that is not what the answer focused on. Now I want you to think of even another possible way to write this sum it up sentence and just whisper your idea. Well, you could have said something like, to sum up, Dan is a good example for how to be caring. It is short, simple, reviews the main idea of what the question is asking and what the whole answer is focused on. And it is underlined in purple like our S poster. Well, that's it. Now you can practice writing written responses using the RACES strategy. I have 2 more stories for you, Stray Puppy and Does Littering Matter? You will read the text, answer the question using the R, A, C, E, and S, and then underline the different parts of your answer according to the poster colors. And don't forget to use one of our sentence starters for the C and E parts, and the S part too if you'd like. Your teacher will assign these either as an online assignment or on paper, and then he or she will check your work. Bye everyone!